Reddit fresh.
Am I the idiot for refusing to let my husband's parents see him after he was in the hospital? This is an awful situation, and I just feel like poop about the entire thing. I just want an outside opinion to know whether I need to suck it up and apologize or not. 2 weeks ago, my husband hurt himself pretty badly and ended up in the hospital. They held him for 5 days before we had to take him home. He was put on several different meds that have him so out of it, and the few days he's been home have been a lot of just trying to sleep and getting sick. I've just been trying to make him comfortable and keep things going. In those days, I didn't tell his parents. Actually, while we were at the hospital, I didn't call anyone but my mom. I know that sounds horrible, and I'm not sure what to say for myself. He doesn't have a terrible relationship with his parents, but it's tense and they have never been very supportive or kind to him. They are condescending and impatient at their best, and I just don't think anyone can handle that right now. I only started making calls after we'd been home a while, and I only told his sister, who must have called them. My mother-in-law calls me incredibly upset, which I understand. I tried to apologize and explain that I just thought having them both there would stress him out, but she just got more angry and hung up. I didn't hear from her again until yesterday when she showed up at our house pissed and demanding to see my husband. I said I was willing, but she needed to calm down and stop yelling. She got pushy and I threatened to call the cops until she left. Both she and his father have called me saying how unfair it is I'm keeping their son from them, but I knew it was going to be like this. I'm just trying to keep their weird drama away from him until he can at least speak for himself. Am I out of line? Should I just apologize and let them have a few hours with him? I know I probably should, but I just know they'll just make things worse. You're the idiot. You created the drama by not even informing his parents. Then they are rightfully angry and you blame them? You threatened to call the cops on them instead of letting them see their son. Jesus, you sound like a freaking nightmare. NTA sounds like he's suffered some serious trauma at the hands of his parents. His recovery is the most important part of all of this, and if they can't pull it together and behave appropriately, then I guess this is how it has to be. You need to reassure him you've got his best interests at heart and that if he doesn't want to see them, he doesn't have to, but if he does, you support that as well. He doesn't have to be guilted into seeing them if he doesn't really want to, but he has to be honest about his feelings and not let his decision be based on a trauma response, guilt. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for asking my sister to separate her kids during my wedding? I, female 26, am getting married this summer to my fiancé, 26M. We are throwing a huge wedding with the help of both my parents and his parents. We want to have kids there, including my nieces and nephews. My oldest sibling is my sister Veronica, 34F. She has 6 children ranging in age from 15 to 2. 2 of her kids are 13-year-old boy-girl twins, her son, Askell, and her daughter, Lily. Askell and Lily do not get along at all. Even their kindergarten teachers noticed they had a tough time getting along. It's always been this way, sadly. Recently, some incidents have made it worse. It started at the beginning of the school year. There was this new boy in the school, very quiet. Him being a quiet kid, along with having painted nails, made him a target for bullying. Lily bullied him. Thankfully, he spoke up for himself and the bullies got in trouble. Askell decides to approach him and apologize for everything. Turns out the boy is autistic and loves sports. Askell also plays and loves sports, especially baseball. Askell and his friends have become close to this boy. The next incident was more recent. On Sunday, Askell was watching a Twitch stream of some kid, around their age, maybe a bit older, playing Minecraft. Lily walked into the living room, went to Askell to see what he was doing. She said the boy sounded like a slur. This was in front of most of the family because it was Easter. I was a bit shocked to hear it and they started arguing from there. I was talking to Veronica about the wedding privately and she started bringing up other things, including the kids. She mentioned how Askell and Lily fight on a daily basis and was asking me if she should try family therapy or if it was a scam. I was talking to her more about it, and I realized that Askell and Lily's tensions could come in the way of a peaceful wedding. Aita asked her if she could separate the twins, different tables, on my wedding day. as I didn't want my special day to be complicated with the twins fighting. She got offended at me and said I was overreacting and twins often have more intense sibling rivalry. She said she'd figure it out, but went on about how neither kid is perfect, none of them are, and she thought it would be better to let her family stay at the same table. Yesterday, I was talking to one of our sisters on the phone and she agreed with me that they needed to be separated. She also said Lily was far worse because of her bigotry. She called Veronica and my sister went insane. She insisted that she can control her kids without separating them or needing help from us. She also said that Lily wasn't any worse because Askell can misbehave too, like being out past curfew with his baseball teammates. Veronica and her husband contacted other family members who agreed with them. We have been told it's not our place to parent the twins and to just disinvite them if we were going to be too perfectionist about our wedding. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your sister cannot have a say in this. There are zero consequences for your sister if her twins ruin your wedding. Of course, she won't bother to take any precautions. She's making noise now because she might have to do some actual parenting. Disinvite them, not the idiot. Your sister obviously can't keep them from each other's throats and they are both misbehaving. In your shoes, I would not invite the twins, but invite the rest of their family. It doesn't sound like they have suffered many consequences of their behavior and that should change. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for going to my brother's bachelor party? I, 28, male, have a girlfriend, 22, female, Nelia, and we have been dating for close to a year at this point. We had a great relationship leading up to this point and now I'm just shocked at the position we are now in. Nelia and I recently found out she was pregnant. It was shocking to say the least because we weren't actively trying, because me and her were under the impression that she will never be able to naturally conceive children. She told me when she was younger she went through some horrible stuff and as a result of that, the doctor told her she will never probably be able to have a kid of her own without medical intervention. So this was somewhat a miracle baby and we were both fully prepared to have this baby until she unfortunately miscarried. It was really horrible to say the least. She fell into a depression and I was sad too. 2 weeks later, I had a trip planned for my brother's bachelor's party. This was planned way before we even found out she was pregnant. She told me how she didn't want me to go and that she still needs me, but I wasn't sure what she wanted me to do if I stayed. I told her I will be back in 3 days and she seemed fine with that answer because she gave me the go-ahead. The day I was leaving she asked me, "Are you seriously actually going to go?" And I told her I had to since the ticket and hotel is non-refundable. So I did end up going. The whole trip I barely heard from her and I tried calling her and she just ignored me. I came home from the trip to our apartment and all of her stuff was gone and she took my dog and dropped it off over my parents' house. I went to my mom's house and picked up my dog and she told me my girlfriend dropped the dog off because she couldn't watch it and she needed space from me. I told my mom what happened and she told me I was an idiot and an idiot for what I did. I don't believe what I did was wrong. By going on this trip she told me I could go. I tried calling her to sort this out because I love her and I have just been ignored so far. So am I the idiot? Edit. Yes, sorry for the typo, I'm a male. Typo, I'm at work and she told me point blank that I could go. Second edit. I get it, my spelling sucks. I wrote this at work. Second, I'm not blaming my GF for me going to Vegas. I'm just simply saying she gave me an okay that I thought at that time she truly didn't care. Lastly, saying remarks regarding her having a miscarriage was the best thing that could happen is extremely hurtful. You can say I'm an idiot without saying that. Update. I appreciate the feedback, even though very harsh, and I know I'm definitely in the wrong. I want to apologize to my girlfriend. I realized fricked up badly. She agreed to meet up with me later and talk. Final. Update. For anyone that still cares, thanks for all the judgments and advice, and me and Nelia had a deep discussion. She cried to me and apologized and we are on good terms now and we are still grieving. You're the idiot, especially for not having a more detailed conversation about this. She asked you to stay and you weren't sure what she wanted me to do if I stayed. How about talking to her about this before you just decide to go? You're the idiot. I'm pretty sure, depending on what actual words she used and tone of voice, that she really didn't tell you to go and mean it. Leaving your girlfriend for a 3-day trip after she suffered a very traumatic incident was an idiot move for sure. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for calling my son's girlfriend's dad a creep and not apologizing? My son, 16, has been dating his first girlfriend for around a year. She comes from a somewhat strange family. Her mother has 2 biological children, the GF and her brother, and 6 adopted children, who she adopted as a single parent. Her father has 14 children, and plenty of grandchildren too, and despite being in his 50s, he has a 33-year-old wife who he has 4 young children with. I have had no issues with the girlfriend herself, and she is a genuinely nice girl. However, I have had some issues with the parents due to disagreements over what is appropriate for a teenager's relationship. Multiple times, without my knowledge, my son has stayed over at one of their homes overnight, and they haven't considered it a big deal. The girl's father has also provided my son and his daughter with alcohol and lets his daughter throw parties at his house. Myself, my wife, and my son were invited over to the girlfriend's father's home for a New Year's party a few months ago. It was supposed to be a family-friendly party, and there were a lot of kids present. However, there was a lot of drinking and rowdy behavior that didn't seem appropriate, and my wife and I were very uncomfortable. At one point, I witnessed the GF's dad be given essentially a lap dance by a young woman that was not his wife. There were also several teens/young adults smoking weed. Several of the young kids at the party spent hours of the night hanging out in the backyard hot tub with only a couple uninterested teenagers to watch them. They were getting out to play in the snow in their bathing suits before running back to the hot tub. One of the boys slipped and hit his head, but the teenagers still allowed the rest of the kids to keep running on the slippery floor. My wife and I ended up leaving the party early. We tried to get our son to leave, but he refused, and as we didn't want to cause a scene, we allowed him to stay. A few weeks ago, I was hanging out with some dad friends, and someone brought up the girl my son was dating and asked about her family as he had heard things. I told them about the party and said some other unkind things about the dad and told them I felt he was creepy having such a young wife and having so many different children with multiple women. Apparently, what I said wasn't kept in confidence, and not only did my son find out about what I said, so did his girlfriend's dad. My son says that the dad mentioned something to him about it and seemed somewhat mad about it. My wife thinks I was an idiot for talking about this man behind his back and that I should reach out and apologize. However, I don't feel like I should because he is a creep, and it is unlikely I'm the first person to point it out. My son is worried that his girlfriend's dad isn't going to want him around anymore, and apparently his girlfriend is no longer too fond of me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but your dad friends sure are. Having an opinion does not make you an idiot when the opinion is about potentially life-changing consequences for your boy. I hope your boy is using condoms, BTW. Can't trust she will take her pill all the time. Especially coming from an environment that is not big on age-appropriate behavior. I'd be irate if I was you. Sounds to me like being around this girl's family is a bad influence, and probably by extension the GF would be as well. Not the idiot. When I was 16, I became best friends with this girl at school and smoked weed with her dad regularly and drank sometimes. He would make suggestive comments towards me, and it wasn't okay. Kids need to be told that kind of setup and behavior isn't normal. They're at a real impressionable age right now. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for lying to my wife as a joke about what AWD means? My, male 27, wife, female 27, is very into feminism, and I often joke about it, and she does not seem to mind. Like I believe in equality and all, and don't criticize her view or anything. My wife was having car troubles with the engine of her old car, and her mechanic convinced her they were going to get worse and advised her to get another car. I thought it could take more years, but she still decided to sell it without getting a second opinion. Her mechanic is actually a woman, and she trusts her for that reason, and she thinks she is a great mechanic. My wife sold her old car and bought a used one that was much newer from a lady. She bought it because she fell in love with the color and thought it looked cute. It is a fine car and I have no issues with it, but it just seemed like an odd reason to get a car to me. The car has an AWD badge on it, and as we were driving back after she bought it, she asked me why it says AWD. I joked and said it was something they put on, and it is a club called Association of Women Drivers where women get together to talk about their cars and car troubles and help each other. I thought she would realize it was a joke, but she took me seriously, so I didn't say anything and tried not to laugh. She said she would consider joining it. When we got home, she Googled it and realized I was joking, but she got really upset and called me an AH. I don't get why she is so offended by such a small joke, as I would have told her eventually what it means. You're the idiot for the sexist way you even told this story. My biggest takeaway is how dismissive you were of her mechanic's recommendation to get rid of her old car, saying how you thought it had more years on it. Let me tell you what, buddy, speaking as a gay male mechanic, this happens all the time. And the fact that your wife's mechanic recommended that instead of using X amount of money to repair her old car, that she put those funds towards a new car speaks volumes. It means her mechanic isn't taking her for a ride or being deceitful, rather looking out for her best outcome. Being that you mentioned you use a different mechanic tells me you're not automotive savvy, so that entire paragraph of you putting down her mechanic is irrelevant. Let me rephrase what you wrote. I, as an untrained man, know more than a trained woman about my wife's car issues. Massive AH, you are OP. You're the idiot based solely on the way you speak about your wife. Instead of supporting her and, maybe listening to her thoughts and ideas on feminism versus treating it like some cutesy little hobby she has? Why wouldn't you want equal rights for the person you've chosen to share your life with? You're dismissive, patronizing, and rude to her instead. Do you even like this woman?